Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. We're here to Nature Folklore Sessions, 17th of October, 2021. Well, thank you all for joining me here for our weekly time of exploring nature-centered folklore, connecting it to within your favorite sanctuary space, and expressing any inspired visions from your sanctuary through your poetry, writing, art, craft, performance, and problem solving. Now, this afternoon's theme is Folklore of Crows, Ravens, and Other Corvids. And there they are. Coming and going, and going to explore the regeneration symbolism of corvids. And the guest later this afternoon, we hope, he hasn't arrived in the back room yet, but we've got hopefully Brian Sachs, who's a wonderful author and he's an author of human animal relationship books. And his book that got my attention for this afternoon is called Crow, which you can kind of see a bit of it there. Should have given it a different lighter background, shouldn't I? But really, this is a wonderful companion. Crow, I'm talking about the book. The Dr. Sachs, he covers the folklore mythology of various corvid species. It's not just crows, and right through human history from Mesopotamia onwards, and even crosses over with what we were talking about with the alehouse wives, because in that poem, Gilgamesh, there are crows as well. And there's a Mesopotamia version of a sea journey that's very similar to Noah and the Ark. So he goes way back with that book anyway, with crows. So I hope we'll have him backstage, and I hope we'll have him live, because I was watching a video or two of his, and a wonderful speaker. Anyway, these Nature Folklore Sessions and Karakori Labyrinth Gardens here are brought to you, and I got the banner below. Thanks to our Patreon subscribers and some of those subscribers watching today. So thank you for your continued support, because it's your support, as I keep reminding, ensures I'm here hosting this on a Sunday afternoon, because it covers the monthly fees and costs and so forth. And maybe when we get more subscribers, I'll be able to afford a producer. Anyway, let's see who's with us today. Let's see. We got Sherry here. Good morning to everyone in East Maine. And I know Sherry has been up a while, been raining all night and still is. And Dr. Sachs is known to Sherry, so she's helping to lead him on to us. And the lovely Seventh Serpents, who's is going to be very relevant the next couple of weeks, has also joined us through the YouTube. So thank you very much for that. Lovely. Now, I've been doing some modifications. I did improve, well, I thought I improved the lighting. Of course, all the test runs, there was no speckle, and I wasn't disappearing, but I see I still got a bit of that. So I'll have another look next week. So excuse the microphone being in the way. I didn't get to I didn't really get to adjust more. So I'll keep working at this. So I think we get a little bit each week. But as long as this is all coming over to you, Gary Branigan has joined us in. Hello. And his there we go. He is a descendant of a little raven. So we got some corvids joining us today, so that's fantastic. And there we go. Alan is here as usual. Fantastic. Shell Gooch, good morning. Lovely fall day here. We got some drizzle here in Karakori. Anyway, let's get on with the show, and hope Dr. Sachs will join us very shortly, because I'll talk a bit about his book anyway, a bit shortly, a bit later on. I haven't had a chance to read all of it yet, but I've taken snippets, and of course, very impressed with it so far. And I think it will just get better and better. But crows, jackdaws, and other corvids, they seem to be very social birds. Luke Eastwood was showing. He was off by the coast somewhere in Kerry, and he had it wasn't a jackdaw, but he had a corvid that just was on his shoulders, and I've been getting a few people write to me with similar experiences of birds in the corvid family. I knew I'd drop that sometime. Corvid family have become friends with them, and I had a couple of examples last year, so I'm not going to repeat them this time. But they've got great intelligence, the crows themselves. They've got the intelligence, it said, of a 4-year-old child. And then when you go up to the ravens, even more mature, the ravens have the intelligence that's of a 7-year-old child, they say. So very intelligent for the raven birds. And corvid birds seem to know, this is one thing, I love this picture, they seem to know and sense things. They sense from us, they sense from animals. I love that shot. And they pick up moods and vibrations. If we are friendly and welcoming, they stick around. If they know we're sort of pissed off or even scared of them, they move away. And some corvid birds become very affectionate. And really, that's unusual. Birds are not affectionate to other animals. They usually stay clear. They're birds and birds, and they're not interested. But the corvids, they like to have some sort of bond with us, which I find fascinating. So both the crows and the ravens as well, it's the sounds. They've got an incredible repertoire of calls. Just because it's a corvid or crow or a rook, it is a quack, quack, quack all the time. It's not the croaking. Ravens, for a start, they got a much deeper call than crows, and I'm going to show you some excerpts later so you can see that for yourself. But the ravens, this is probably something you know well. The corvid birds, they tend to group together, most of them, but the ravens very independent. They're almost like raptors. They're certainly very active hunters. So they have to live like hawks and raptors because of their independence. They haven't got other birds around them to rely on. There's no murder of ravens, for instance. And the ravens are also bigger than the crows. They always seem to look windblown, don't they? I'll go back to that. Look how windblown and shaggy the feathers are. Even when it's still, they look like that. So that's one of the identifications, the sort of shagginess of their feathers when they're not flying. But ravens, they just love to fly. Now, the point of this presentation, I think I've got another shaggy feathers. There you go. There's some good shaggy feathers of a raven there. But the point of this presentation is to address the unfair evil and sickness imagery that us humans seem to have of these corvid birds, and I suppose that's amplified. And I'm already doing it by calling them COVID birds. But this is what brings on the folklore stories, isn't it? And you got something like this, which I'm going to be talking about, the Other Corvids there, if they'd stay there for a moment. So let's see who else has joined us here. We got Terry Stack Hardwick. Good morning from Maryland, USA. And Steve Jones, nice to see you. One of my ancestral names is Byrne, also derives from Raven. So any Suzanne Souza, who's here through the YouTube, good morning to you. And is there anybody else that can link their last names to the Corvids? It doesn't surprise me one bit that you probably find that your last names, if you think they're linked to the Corvids, there's actually a story in your name. And if you know that story, do put it in the comments, and that will add to what we've got, what we're going to have this afternoon. So thank you for bringing that up, of how these corvid birds, ravens, crows, etc., are linked to you. It's fantastic stuff. Right. What I'm going to go into now. In this crow and raven session, I'm going to go perhaps into the best known raven link. And this is a folklore show. And I say I usually keep away from battle stories. But when we talk of crow and mythology and folklore, I think with a lot of people, and especially women, the first thing that's thought of is the woman, if I get that picture up, the Morrigan. There we go. There's a Morrigan imagery, and there's so much artwork of Morrigan out there, so there was no problem finding some words around that. But the word Morrigan to me, I find is a little bit, actually, I never got used to it. Even as a child, there was something wrong there, because I always felt it's a modern anglicized Latin-based word that's matured from something else. But I haven't got a clue about that. I don't really know when, because I guess it's sometime the name came about early in the Celtic Romantic period, maybe 18th century, but the Celtic Romantic period was more sort of 1840 to 1910. And some people call that the Celtic Twilight time, or even the Celtic Misty time. But all of this Morrigan stuff seemed to get revived a lot by the Wiccas, especially during the 50s. There was Gardner. And to me, Gardner is quite a character, because he always reminds me a bit, when I see a picture of him, he always kind of, I'm losing the pictures. There we go. He always reminds me a bit, he won't settle down. Let's see if I get it. It's like trying to shoot an arrow. There we go. No, wrong one. There we go. He always reminds me of this character, the Janus figure. I'm being cheeky, but that's the first thing I think of when I see the pictures of Gardner. Okay, I'll move on from that. That's right. And some of you know I can get into hot water from questioning the Morrigan name anyway, because it's kind of set in stone. And she does appear with that spelling through translations of the Battle of Moitura that's taken from the Book of Invasions, but also from modern translations. But I always look at those like the Bible. Think of how many translations there's been since the Essenes and their scrolls, Dead Sea Scrolls onwards. But to me, with that thing, well, Morrigan must be anglicized. So to me, it feels like a mix of Saxon and Latin words that have been pulled together and watered down somewhere. So for a while, I was comfortable. Some storytellers talk of the Morrigu. I know Robin Williamson's one of them. And that had been shortened from Morrigu, Mor the Great, Royalty, Ku the Protector, or Kun, the Quiet Protector, the Infinite Queen, anyway, the Protector or the Weaver. And I've also heard earlier language words of Morrigronia, which is a bit like Anya as well, who's the goddess carrier of souls, there's a lot of stories of her taking characters off to the Tir-na-nog, but that's mainly summer storytelling, isn't it? So that's a little bit off the Morrigronia, I think. So my favorite is the Morna Coracuen, because of the Mor, the Great, Infinity. Corrie could be a valley, it could be a cauldron, it could be the inside hollowness of a mountain or a hill, it could be within a cave. And so Kuan, the quiet place, but quiet place of weaving. So you got this weaving inside the mountain, the great thing. So I get this great. I pull that from imagination. Morrigan is probably complete bullshit, but I must admit I feel comfortable with that, because it seems to relate to the copulation through conception that happens midway between Sawan and spring. And that is the Morrigan time, the Underworld time, picking up the debris from the year before. And there's so many stories of like the flame dragons that's part of her and that type of thing I talked of last week. And that entire transformation. So I kind of have that imagery rather than stick to a name. I haven't got a clue what it means. So forgive me for that one. And anyway, I'm probably going to be talking more about the Morrigan imagery in battlefields anyway, which is unusual for nature folklore, but it's something you're probably familiar with. But for this COVID session, I'm going to focus on the symbolism and imagery of crows and ravens, more about their seasonal regenerations than their part in battles, but there will be some battle stuff. But what fascinates me is their digestive system. absolutely incredible. And to me, that's well, they're chasing each other, but that's the best I could get up. It's the fallen leaves time. It's the autumn now, and I gather they're eating up. But they can eat all kinds of pollutants and diseases. They can digest them, and when they poop it out, it's entirely safe. If you've got a organic farm and you're worried about your certification from pollutants, don't worry if the crows and the ravens, etc., are there, because even though they might be eating up the Roundup in the field next to you and pooping in yours, that's going to be perfectly safe. Now, you can't say that about rats, and I'm going to come about that later. Anyway, Dr. Sachs, if we can get him on board, I hope he comes on board. He'll have more to say about that soon, I'm sure. And he'll talk about why the ravens are honoured in the Tower of London. That's features in a couple of his books. In fact, he has one book specifically on that, which I'll probably give a reference to, but it's in his Crow book as well. In fact, I got a cover. This is the cover of his book, The City of Ravens, which talks about the ravens in the Tower of London. That's one of Dr. Bariah Sacks's books. And because it's a tribute, the ravens on the Tower of London, it said they cleared up the bubonic plague in London by eating up the diseased dead. And by doing so, because of their digestive system, and I mentioned about rats, that they made London safe again. Now, if the rats had got to the bodies first, that would have been a hell of a situation, because they don't, their poop is not safe after something like that. So I'm really simplifying the story here. But I've heard the saying that people say that as long as there's ravens living at the Tower of London, there will never be a plague in London again. So that's why they're honoured there. And I hope Dr. Sachs will come up and clear me up on that one. Anyway, I'm going to go on to the identification of the different corvids very soon. And also some reference of corvids used in divination and as totems. But for now, there's a song. I was going to call out for it. Who out there covers Three Ravens or Trois Corvids? They're two different songs, and I have got one. I'm going to use the one I used last year. But these both relate to battlefield folklore, where ravens and crows are present, as I say, Three Ravens or Trois Corvids. And as I say, I shared one last year, and I'm going to encore it this year. But Three Ravens. Let's get a picture of some Three Ravens. They are just Three Ravens. It's an English folk ballad printed in the songbook that's called Melismata, which was compiled ideally by Thomas Ravenscroft. Who else could it be? And it was published in 1611. But I feel the song is much older than that. And then we got Trois Corvids. And there we go, Two Crows. And that's sung in the Scots language. And that seems to have first been published either by Walter Scott or someone close to him in a collection that was put together in 1812. And both songs tell very different stories. The Three Ravens is quite symbolic, because ravens are independent, as I mentioned. But in the song and in folklore, they actually hang around in threes. And even with the Morrigan story, the three hags become three ravens. So we have that. In fact, let's, I say, and I'm messing about with the green screen here. And let's see if I can change this. There we go. There she is, a hag with three. I don't think it's three ravens. Anyway, I'll keep that up for a little while. I don't know why I'm covering head on that one, but let's play with that one for a bit. Great. We'll keep that up for a few minutes, see how we get on. Anyway, Trois Corvids. There's a bit of the song there. No, I'm talking about the Three Ravens still, so it gets back to there. But this Three Ravens song, it tells of a newly slain knight, and the knight is guarded by loyal hawks and hounds around him. And I don't have a picture of that song, unfortunately. But in that story, it explains that a deer came up to the knight's body that was fallen, and it kissed the wounds that he had, and the deer took him away and buried him. And because of that, there was no meal for the ravens who were pouring down on home to be left there. So the deer, at the point of burying this knight, actually morphed from being the knight's woman lover. So whether he'd come back from crusades, I don't know that part. But anyway, but Tuath Corby is much more sinister, as a lot of the Scottish folklore does go into. They make a lot of stories more melancholic and more cynicism. But this time the song, it features two crows, and they look pretty serious, don't they? So instead of the song commenting on the loyalty of the knight's hawk and hounds, you have the two crows are telling the knight. Again, I'm locked. Right, there we go. Is telling the knight that his hawk and hound have left him. They've gone off chasing game, so they're not hanging around him. They're off. They're chasing the game. And not only that, there's no mistress going to be morphing for this poor lad. She's not going to be a caring deer who's going to come along. She's already fecked off with another lover. So it's poor dead lad. He's sort of going bad in two different directions. Excuse me for a moment. I'm still getting this locking. Right, I don't want that one. I got my pictures locked, so I'm trying to unlock them. Anyway, Tuath Corvids. So they get their meal, and there's the poor lad below in the picture, if you can see a bit of him. I think it's just his legs. And nobody knows he's there. Like the other night, there's a burial place. He gets a serious burial. Well, this is it. The only ones that know him is the Tuath Corvids. And this song includes some gruesome detail about the meal they're about to make of him, and I'm not going to go into that. But there's an underlying theme here that portrays the fragility of life, that it still goes on after death. And this is summed up in the final lines of the song. Ore bands, when they are bare, the winds still blow forevermore. So here is, I got Howard Hawksley in performing his interpretation of the Tuath Corvids. And again, thank you, Howard, for sending this to me. I've got the soundtrack, I've got the lyrics, and just put this all together for you to follow. And this is a picture here of Howard Hawksley, who's not a crow. There he is, that's Howard Hawksley. And let's get his song up in a moment. So bring it on. And no, that isn't what I want. Come on, bring it on. Howard Hawksley, Tuath Corvids.
As I was walking all alone, I heard Tuath Corvids making main. Leaning to the tether did say, oh, where shall we gang and dine the day, oh, where shall we gang and dine the day? In behind John O'Felt I wot there lies a new slain knight, and naebody kens that he lies there, oh, save his hawk and his hound and his lady fair, oh, hawk and his hound and his lady fair. His hawk has gone a hunting game, his hounds to fetch the wildfowl hame. His lady's ta'en another mate, oh, so he may mak our dinner sweet, oh, he may mak our dinner sweet. You'll sit on his white house bane, and I'll peck out his bonny blue een, with many a lock of his golden hair, oh, thee canst when it grows bare, oh, thee canst when it grows bare. And many's a man shall ask his name, and none shall ken where he is gane. And his white bones when they are bare, oh, the wind shall blow forevermore, oh, the wind shall blow forevermore. I heard twa corvids making main, the een unto the tether did say, oh, where shall we gang and dine the day, oh, where shall we gang and dine today?
Ah, there we have it. Howard Hawkley with Twa Corvids, and let's get my ducks in a row again. I hope you heard that okay and it wasn't interference, because I actually had some my headphones failed. I was looking for spare headphones, couldn't find them, but I got some chunky ones in emergency should Dr. Sachs make an appearance. That'd be great. Anyway, I'm gonna let's see what you have to say. There's a few comments coming up here. Cosmic Mirrors around. I'm so happy right now, which is fantastic. Davina is fascinated, and Cosmic Mirror, love this man and ravens, brilliant. And a lot of comments from Cosmic Mirror over from the YouTube here, and he says it's been waiting forever. And who we got here? We got someone else here. Candice Rainbow Owl from North Carolina. First Sunday in a while. Lovely that you're here. Thanks for joining in, Candice and Susie, Souza, Donna Johnson here, down there from New Mexico. Wonderful, wonderful. Wonderful to have you all on board and watching. Thank you so much. And I wish to return to Onagat Cave in Rathcrowan. I talked about this a bit with the fire dragons last week. And there's another picture of the entrance. And I'm sure some of you watching have crawled down that. And I think that includes you, I think, isn't it, Donna? I think you've been that way. So Onagat, last Sunday, as I say, I talked about going down it and its connection to the story, the folklore, the tale of Ellen Tracken as a dragon, various ones. And I think I talked about the well-known one where someone's cow went down there and they held onto the tail, kept going, and came out in the Cage Caves. Likewise, with a dragon came out in the Cage Caves right into the mythological pool, the lock in the middle, and came out as the Fluctor Flame, but through the blessing with the Morrigan or the Monacorcu, became the water that left the caves in the springtime to refertilize the land for spring. Anyway, Onagat's perhaps better known for its connection to many other different Morrigan stories to many people. The Morrigan Morphing, and I've got this in the background. Let's bring her to the front ground. Maybe I should just leave her the background. This is, should I? I didn't do the right size for that though. That's the point, put it together. Anyway, there are visitor pilgrimages to this cave, quite a few. There's Claire with a friend down there, Hope. But a lot of women do pilgrimages. Well, I should have thrown up. I got some lovely pictures of, I think it was 18 women that went down there. And they all dressed up in these forensic scientist white suits with the headlamps on. It's quite an eerie picture. I wish I'd found that for you. Maybe when I do the Onagat, I think I'm doing it next week as a Samhain thing. Perhaps I'll find it and bring it out for that, because it's a great fun picture. Let's see if I can give you another different. Let's go to a different screen here, green screen picture if I can. Or do we have? No, I think we'll keep to the Morrigan one since I'm talking about that now. So we'll keep her up there with the crows and the pilgrimage women. And now for many women, Sawana Halloween pilgrimage to Onagat Cave is a very precious experience to them. It's fascinating to me how medieval scribes, how they actually translated these stories, and especially the Morrigan and the underworld and the Sawan stories, translated to them from oral dictions, and how they put down seasonal folklore is a terrific fascination to me, and I'm always questioning it, as I mentioned in many nature folklore sessions. And I'm going to actually cover a bit about the mythology of Morrigan in the battlefield, because it looks like the modern Morrigan, here we go, is inscribed by the Valkyries, W-A-L, I didn't put spelling up, the W-A-L-K-U-R-Y-A-S, which I think is pronounced as Valkyries. And they're Norse myth raven female beings. They're sort of raven, very similar to me to how Morrigan is portrayed on the battlefield. They're kind of half raven and half female beings. And that's an artist's impression that I got of that. And then even they were battlefield scavengers. They went down on this battlefield. They scavenged the flesh of the fallen fighters, and then they grabbed their weapons and possessions. There's one different thing, but very similar to the way the Morrigan stories have told is Valkyries. You might have looked into it, but it's not them. You go a bit south of the Norse people, and then you get the Saxons and Germanics. They're similar, who were the Indici. And there's the Indici female crow-like figures. They're actually on horses. They're going towards the battlefields. They watch over the battlefields. But the difference with the Indici, different to the Valkyries, I think, is the Indices actually decided in advance who was going to be the winner and who is going to be the loser, because they decided according to who they'd be able to plunder most from, who would they get the most feasting. If there was more flesh on the bodies of one side than the other, that was the one that was going to win, because that was more food for them. So that's the indice. But I believe that through these, the regeneration stories, what I call the Monocorcuan, morphed into this warrior battlefield. There we go. There's a woman in the Morrigan. That's there she is in the battlefield there. Another one. Very unusual for nature folklore for me to wander through this. But these images today, I think, are very powerful images of encouragement. We don't wallow actually in the battle stories. I don't think anyway. I hope we don't. But the adrenaline of that maybe is a powerful motivational emotion that encourages team building, especially with women. There's always still this challenge for equality that's been going on for a good, thousands of years, but especially through changes of the last 100 years. So there's I try to be polite with this, but if someone feels a low esteem, especially a woman, there needs to be something to say, yeah, my voice means something. I am a part of here. I have got a voice, and I'm really confident that my voice is part of it all. I'm not going to live being told what to do. I'm not going to be a slave to a patriarchal administration, that type of thing. Anyway, move on from the politics. But the Morrigan itself is told of being a morphing being as well. And that includes morphing into a raven, or here we go, and I had it in the background, the murder of crows, and there's another murder of crows, which after the Morrigan stories we might think of murder. We don't get murder with ravens, but there we go, the murder of crows in different forms. Now, all corvids are scavengers, and their digestive systems can, as I say, they can take amazing toxins, poop it out, and you won't lose your organic sustainability certificates. You can be quite okay with the corvids on your land. So I want to change the picture to more crows. Let's have a bit of a murder of crows behind us. There we go. Or do we need that one? There we go. They're talking into the microphone. Let's try that one for a little while. That's fun, isn't it? Anyway, the Monocorcuan is said to absorb the debris from the end of the harvest. So there's a comparison to the crows there and the ravens and all the corvids. they're eating up the debris, all the pollutants, all the leftovers, and it's all clean, fresh, fertile, great for especially for new seeds, especially for the spring. And so the monocoricure and the Morrigan absorbs the debris from the end of the harvest, such as leaf fall, the remaining hay and straw and cabbage leaves, whatever's just lying around from the debris of the harvest, and reweaving all this. Of course, this goes into the soil and goes down into the underworld. So you got this reweaving of all this within her womb water, and it all comes gushing out as new fertility for the inbulk of the next spring. So more thoughts and comments on that whole transformation from someone to inbulk. What does it mean to you? What does it mean to you in terms of the Morrigan? What it means to you also in just that whole transition? And I'm going to sort of brain dead the other thing of the Morrigan, and also of the corvids and the crows and the ravens, etc. So certainly come up with your ideas on that one. We've got Candice first. Oh yeah, we Candice said we got some more people come on board. It's lovely to see all you YouTube people here, which is fabulous. Terry Stack, I'm sorry I had to leave today's episode. It automatically goes into archive view in the moment I stop talking. No problem with that. The Valkyries was psychopomps. There we go, known as the choosers of the slain. That's what I was politely trying to say. Although I was saying that about the Saxon ones, but worthy of valor and escorted them there. Yeah, very certainly more blacker than perhaps our Morrigan here. So good morning from the North Shore of Massachusetts, from Kimberly there. Thank you for joining us on board here. And Texas is back with Lee Lynch arriving. Fantastic. And thank you, Lee. And Seven Sermons, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia. You've got the whole South Coast watching, and a lot of it through Davina, and then a lot of it through YouTube. But there's Davina. You're South Carolina, aren't you? I tend to forget. Anyway, thank you all. You're watching well here. This is fabulous. All right, what we got next? Crows. And divination. Let's talk a little bit of that. I'm not going to go on much this time on the divination because I do divination subjects through January, but we'll get a little bit in on that. And you might be familiar with this. This is actually from one of Dr. Sachs's books that he's got there. Then we'll get the Divina thing in so you can read it. There you go. Hope you can read all that. That's one thing. And I know another one. One crow is an omen for bad luck. 2 crows for good luck. 3 crows for good health. 4 crows, if you see them, wealth's on the way. But if you see 5 crows, sickness is coming. And with 6 crows, oh boy, someone may be dying nearby. That's the other variation I'm saying that. Anyway, I think that's probably as much as I'll go on the divination. Let's go on to some code interpretation, because there's about 40 species worldwide, and 7 of them are here in Ireland. So people in the USA, you may have a lot more. So there's about 40 species, as I say, 7 in Ireland, and you might recognize some of these. I'm going to go through some little videos with each of this is fun time. I'm going to go through them, and you'll perhaps at the end know exactly who's who. So I'm going to start off with the Rooks. There you go. Right, that's the Rooks. And next up, I've got the Hooded Crows. And they push the Rooks out of the way because these are the Banshee Crows. These are the Banshee Corvids. So here we go with some Hooded Crows. So that's them. And now some jackdaws. They've got the grey heads and they've got a proud swagger, and they were very well known for blocking chimneys. So that's the jackdaws. A lot of people get the jackdaws and the crows and the rooks mixed up. So I hope that helps you to identify. But this is one that's different. You probably know this very well, the magpies. Very short one on a magpie. And now my favourite, the choughs. Red beaks, they got red legs, incredible in flight, known as the Celtic crow. You do see them in Ireland, but I see them by the coast. I see them, they're quite common along the Donegal coast, especially if you go to Slieve League. Also, some of the beaches, North Sligo, Leitrim Beach, the little beach there, I've seen there. And they like picnickers. They come right up close to the picnickers. They're very brave and bold birds, but very pretty. And I like these. So this is the chough then. Isn't that a pretty bird? Now, perhaps the most squawkiest one, the screechiest of them all. But we have to be thankful for them because we might not have oak trees if it wasn't for these birds. Because with jays, we think of squirrels, that they bury acorns and they'll come back to some of them in the winter. The ones they don't come back to, at least one of those acorns is going to come up as an oak sapling. But more likely the jays are the forest builders, because their memory is worse than squirrels for finding the oaks. And they don't put so many oaks together. They only put one or two together. They bury them and they totally forget about them. So jays are really our oak planters, natural oak planters. But I think they're the most screechiest things. Pretty to see, but here's a jay. And I think I'm on the seventh one. This is one that's we got here. The one of the, which one haven't, let you guess in advance, which one haven't I featured? It's the one of the corvids that always draws us into the most wonder, I believe. And they are the most incredible of all the corvids when they're in flight. They're born to love flying. They just really get into their flying. But first, here's what the raven sounds like. All right, that's a short one on that. But here is the raven. It's a quiet clip, and this is a raven in flight, so you get the full idea of it. And that's it. That's my range of video clips of corvids. I hope you enjoyed that. And if you didn't know the differences, you can actually see there. And Grace Cowley says she's learning a bit. Order the life. There we go. Cosmic Mirror, to have life, there must be death. And Donna Johnson, fascinating how I love the corvids here. Wonderful. Now, this was the spot I was hoping that we'd have Dr. Brian Sachs, and he hasn't turned up. Sherry, have you got any news at your end where Dr. Sachs may have disappeared to? Because he's a fascinating man, Dr. Brian Sachs. He earned a doctorate in intellectual history and German at the State University of New York. And More fascinating. Oh, my comeback screen. He has been a consultant on human rights for Amnesty International, Helsinki Watch, and right. I thought I had more pictures, but I don't. This is one of his books. There's another one in the series, The Mythical Zoo, which is absolutely fascinating as well. But I'm just hoping with just last minute he makes a sudden appearance. Meanwhile, Jones says fascinating videos of actual birds. Thanks, here in Wakefield, UK. We've got rooks and magpies in the garden, and there's ravens at Scarborough. Sherry, no news yet. I do hope he shows up. Yeah, he's just got a few minutes to show up. I hope he does. It would be fascinating and nice to see color in them as well. Anyway, as I say, Dr. Sachs, consultant, Amnesty International, Helsinki Watch, and Human Rights Internet. And he's also founder of the non-profit organization Nature in Legend and Story, which is exactly why I was hoping he can join us, but he hasn't yet. Now, in Silver Folklore, the hero learns the language of the birds. And that was what one of the things that Dr. Sachs was definitely here to talk about. He features that in his Crow book, quite a bit of that. And he's very much dedicated to the understanding of bonds between human beings and the natural world. So that comes into what you were saying about the language, learning from each other. Now, as a writer of popular published books, let's see, the one thing he was showing that not all of the species of the corvid family, he's got a beautiful, I wish I could show the book now. He's not here. I was hoping he could show you pictures and so forth. And I haven't prepared the book to show you slides to show. But if you go to Crow, it'll definitely, if you can find that book, I think it's also on the Kindle as well. And I'm sort of filling in and trying to find pictures with Crow here. That's the book there. I also like his Frog King book, and if you any of those of you who've got my Bathing in the Phase Breath, I have the Handsome Frog, and it's so funny. We never saw each other's books, but in his Frog King, he goes into some of the stuff that I go into with the Handsome Frog and Bathing in the Phase Breath. So I was hoping to talk about that comparison there for a bit of fun, but it looks like it's going to be another time when we do Crows next year, maybe. Right, I'm in a bit of a hole here. All right, I'll tell you a story. There was a story of a man. He stole the eggs from a raven's nest. He boiled the eggs that he stole, and he put them back into a nest. Now, the mother of the raven discovered this, the eggs, and that they were boiled. But she knew a way out of this. So we got the Origna Mountains over at Kilronan, so she flew over there. And the Origna was a coal mining area, but outside that coal mining area, there's this really hard black rock. It's as good as flint, very good for cutting. And some of the druidy type people use it for ceremonies and so forth. So this raven went off to Origna, got a piece of this magical black rock, brought it back to the nest, put the rock across the eggs, and they returned from being boiled eggs to actually being live nestable eggs about to breed chicks. So this was the trick. This was why the man boiled the eggs, because he knew that the raven knew where the black stone was. He didn't know where it was. So this was the plot all along. And he was a weak, exhausted man. He couldn't wander over the hills to go and look for this black stone himself. He was relying on the raven to show exactly where the black stone was. But he'd heard that if you washed and rubbed this black stone, and I got a walking stick, I should have brought it in. I didn't even know I was going to tell the story to fill in, but it's actually got black stone on the top. It was made by Michael Quirk, the storytelling sculpture in Sligo. Anyway, he heard that if you washed and rubbed the stone in the local hag's well as a just a meter or so from here, that he would be gifted with a beautiful woman. Beautiful woman would come out that well, and that beautiful woman would be his wife. And not only that, the beautiful woman would have the magical ability so that his weakness would fade away with a sort of exchange of love, and his stamina and strength would return, and he would return to being a passionate mate. But so he went to Rigner, he got the stone, and no, actually, he didn't go to a Rigner because the stone was sitting in the eggs, wasn't it? So he took them from the nest. So he took the stone from the nest and he took it to the well. He was expecting this beautiful woman to come out of the well. But instead, what did he get? 3 crows appeared. And they happened to have the name of Babe, Macha, and Neiman, which translates roughly, can be as illusion, confidence, and prophecy. And this group of 3 ravens, the Bev, Macha, and Naman, also known as a group of messengers. And a group of messengers is known as a precorn. And we know a male version of that, don't we? A leprechaun. And today that word is used for a group of a crowd. We talk about precorn as being a crowd, and that may be why we have a murder of crows, because of the word precorn. But the message of the 3 crows, the precorn, to this trickster man was to drag him into a hollow hill through the caves here. We got the caves of Keish here, to the Doida, the hag, the kayak, and to sleep with her within the Mornacorcuan womb. And the stamina would return to him. So he shouldn't be disappointed that the beautiful woman didn't come out. The 3 ravens, or 3 crows, would take him to the Mornacorcuan, and the fertility would return, and he would be there ready for the grand conception of midwinter. And from that, the spring toil of the soils of Ireland would be so fertile. So there was the black stone. He made a harp through the winter with the wood of alder, and the black stone that he had taken from the raven was molded into his harp. And this harp was a 4-cornered one, and the 4 corners are said to conduct the season. And with a pot that he formed from the fires of Beltner, that he carried the porridge of the harvest to everyone, each one, when he was worn out again by the well, he would have the stone in his harp and he would tap it. And during an autumn rainbow, it would call the precon, the 3 crows, again. He wasn't looking for the beautiful woman, and they guided him back to the Doida again. And this man was then known as the enchanter of the Doida. And what I've really told you is another corrupted version of the Doida mating with the Morrigan. So that was just, I was doing that as a fill-in. So forgive me for my running around with that one. So now it's one of about a dozen different Doida and or Dagda and Morrigan stories in the area. And now, because of that, my insanity, the laptop has screwed up on me. It just looked at me and the screen's exploded. And I'm trying to get your comments up. So let's see if I can get your comments down again. No, that's not working. Oh, sorry, the whole equipment has gone really off the wall here. And I'm trying to get to your comments. Oh, let's see if I can. Excuse me while all right. Tech issues, eh? They happen every week. Right, we're back to what you're saying. Any thought on Grimm's 7 Ravens? Do you know what? The Grimm stories myself, and I must admit, I'm not a huge fan of Grimm's. And when Grimm's I think I need to bring it into the Nature Folklore. I actually have to go and read it to remind myself I don't remember you talking about that. I think it was last week, and I never bothered to go to the Grimm. So, any chance you could type in a bit of a synopsis of that, of the Grimms? That would be very great. The Seven Serpents, might be able to give us a little story on the Seven Ravens. Anyway, Elizabeth Flynn says, so sorry I'm not up on the 7, which I should be, I suppose. So Sherry's worried. Yeah, so where is he? Because he was excited, wasn't he? Dr. Sachs was very excited to be sharing this, to have the opportunity. And I did send him a reminders myself and sent him the link just in case he didn't know. So that is very unfortunate that we haven't got him. We'll see if we can fit him in some other time if he's around. But of course, this is the only Corvids day that I'm doing. Anyway, another story I'm just thinking of is well, I'm not going to say much about it because again, it's a story I'd need to look up. But perhaps I would have thought more famous than the Grimm Seven Ravens is the Norse Ravens, Hugin and Munnin. That story. Anybody know the Hugin and Munnin story at all? I want to might have some pictures for that one too. There we go. There they are. Hugin and Munnin. And chances are you've got an excellent version you can share, but perhaps next year I'll have a fuller version of this one too. But as a short synopsis, Hugin means thought, and don't go away on me, and Munnin means memory, and the two ravens with these two names are said to they flew all over the world. And what they did was bring back information back to the Norse god Odin, which is a very strange medieval scribe, because he lost an eye. He lost the eye to Freya. Because he wanted some of her wisdom, but he was always seeking wisdom, wasn't he, this Odin lad? So he was looking at these two ravens to go Munnin, and they went around the world, Hugin and Munnin, and they referred, storytellers regard Odin as a raven god. So there's medieval poetry that mentions Odin fearing that his ravens, when they went off around the world on their adventures, that they would get lost. They wouldn't come back again. And if they didn't come again, his thirst for knowledge wouldn't come back, and he would be dead. He would get Alzheimer's or something. So he was always nervous when these ravens went off. But every time he worried about it, they came back with more wisdom for him, and it made up for his lost eye, maybe. And he needed this wisdom for being a leader, to have the stories that he could teach the shamans, or the equivalent that was in the Norse, that they would have stories to tell that were inspired by him. He would have the reputation for him, even though these two ravens were the ones that brought the knowledge around the world. So it's like a sort of raven version, a very active version of the Tree of Life, isn't it? Which is supposed to be the roots of all knowledge coming to the surface. Anyway, shamans themselves, they, even in Siberia and coming east, they rely on the synthesis of thought and memory, because they regard the two as being the essential ingredients to bring about a shaman trance. And some people relate to the Hugin and Munnin story as a return, the combination of the two being the ability to be tranced into a shaman. But the fear of a shaman's trance is, will the shaman actually lose usually his or her mind within that trance, which they feel that the Hugin and Munnin getting lost is kind of related to that. So it's interesting to think of the image of Hugin and Munnin ravens on each side of the shoulders of this wise man, or trying to be a wise man. And then there's the imagery, and I haven't got it. Jesus Christ had a dove on his shoulder, didn't he? And that was a symbol of peace. And a lot of shamany type people looking for wisdom, when they saw the image of Jesus Christ with a dove on his shoulder, it's as if the dove was higher than the raven. So they say that's how a lot of Saxons transferred or changed over to Christianity or had more respect for it, because of this image of the dove on Christ was more powerful to them than the two ravens on Odin. That's as much as I can remember about that. You might know more about it. Not necessarily. Well, the Norse did turn to Christianity, didn't they? They became Normans in Normandy, and they became very much loyal servants to Rome of the Vatican. So there you go. Change of leadership, change of path to wisdom imagery from the ravens to the dove. And of course, in the Noah story, the land wasn't certain when they saw the crow or the raven, but it was when they saw the dove. Anyway, perhaps next year I'll talk more about Hugin and Munnin, a bit more thorough. Right, let's see what comments you've had to say with that. As I filled time since Dr. Sachs wasn't around, you got some more wise people on that. Odin's thought and memory, awesome. Grimm isn't really a favorite of mine. Yeah. There we go. The Odin's ravens, much more interesting, I think. I know they are Odin's birds, and they fly out to get information for him. And Lee Lynch, that's what Lee Lynch said. And seven, the thoughts of memory. That's it. Definitely, that's where the combination of them into trance. So maybe I carried the main points of that. Duality is what Cosmic Mirror is saying. So maybe it was good just to have the leading points. Anyway, as I mentioned at the start of these sessions, it's all brought to you by these wonderful subscribers I got, and I'm still trying to cover the expenses. I appreciate your help on that. Thanks very much. Any subscription, dollar, pound, euro a month, it does help us keep the subscriptions paid for or catching up, so I can keep on the air. And especially sometimes like headphones gone. Looks like I go get another set of headphones this time. So there we go with that. Right. Let's tell you what's coming up. Coming up, Nature Folklore was that was the fourth one in the one series, wasn't it? So 24th of October, that's the next one, isn't it? So coming up then, that's going to be the first of a two-parter of Soan Origins, not Oranges. And we're going to have Ornagot. There's the entrance of Ornagot, and there's the inside of Ornagot. And then going to be covering Mimaka as well. A lovely aerial shot of Mimaka there. And then the following week, 31st of October, a lot of people say Sawan, Halloween. We're going to have part 2. We're going to have the Hills of Talaka. That's Talaka, and a lovely picture there. I don't have one of Tara, but I'm going to be featuring the Sawan activities of Tara. And then 7th is, it's over to you, Sawan Traditions. It's our gathering, one of our gathering sessions. So please message to include your Sawan stories, poems for that Sunday. Maybe we can fit Dr. Sachs in there if he's able for a little bit. But this is actually the 7th of November. It's the day of the sidereal time of Sawan Day. It's not the modern Gregorian calendar day. So that's what's coming up with the Sawan sessions to come. I hope you'll be joining in and enjoying those. Love the story of the Great Race. It's a Native American story. Yes, Dr. Sachs it's in his book, and that might have been something that came up. Thanks for pointing that, Elizabeth. That's great. So I hope there was plenty there. I have been on for more than an hour, so I did fill in with a beat there. I hope you enjoy that, especially the identification. I think that's fun with the videos with the identification of the different corvids. So thank you again. And we didn't have Boreas Sachs, but we certainly had Howard Hawksley with Other Corvids. So thank you, Howard, for that again. If you're watching this after the broadcast, there is instantly an archive video once I say bye-bye to you and log off. So please keep commenting, and I will answer the questions from time to time. Subscribe where you see the bell icons that tell you what's coming up the next week. Any more from you? Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being a lovely audience and for being here. And lovely to see a nice combination of YouTubers and Facebook together. No Twitter people. We don't seem to get Twitter people very often. And Twitter has changed over the way they do videos. So maybe it's going to take a few weeks for that to catch up. But it's lovely to have you here. Enjoy a safe week. It's full of wonder. I don't think I can come up with much more. Let's hope the computer is staying with me. So have a lovely week, everybody. Until next Sunday, play well. And that's all I've got from me. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.